Welcome to Cracked Movie Club, the show where we do a book club, but for movies, which are like books but better. I'm your host, Jordan Breeding, and I'm joined by only one co-host, because again, nobody cares about this podcast but me, Jesse. Say hello, Jesse.
Yeah, hi. I barely care about this podcast. I'm gonna be doing other stuff. I've got a different book club that I'm a part of, and I'm gonna be reading while we're recording this.
A book club that's about books, which are like movies but worse.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry,
Yeah, I can hear you. You always forget watching it on your phone like 30 seconds behind. All right. So here's what we're going to do. One of the things, if you're new to this podcast, is that if you have an observation or a question or an alternate movie title, please feel free to throw it up in the chat,
just
and
scream
we
it in your
will,
whole
yeah,
office.
just yell it as loud as you can to whoever's around. And Brian's trolling through, and we'll star some of them, and at the end we will potentially go through some of them and talk about them, and we'll come up with alternate titles and all that stuff. But in the meantime, this brings us to a thing that we had to talk about offline because just we got excited. This is all on me. And here's the deal. Here's the deal, nerds. So some of you can and have donated money, which is awesome. It's very, very cool. It's very, very exciting. It makes me feel proud to be an American or something. Capitalism. But and 2 weeks ago or something, people gave money, and so we watched Demolition Man, and then last week a bunch of you were giving money for us to watch and to not watch a Serbian film. And when we got offline, we kind of had a discussion about it, and Jesse obviously wussed out because Jesse, right, Jesse?
I don't like scary movies.
Yeah, Jesse's a scaredy boy. But really what it came down to was realizing pretty quickly, regardless of whether it's a Serbian film or Demolition Man or something that we were already going to watch, I don't think we want the podcast to just become we watch whatever movie goes to the highest bidder or whatever.
Yeah,
Because
know your role, audience.
know your role. Because we actually, Jesse and I don't make any more or less money depending. People have said, "Oh, it's a beer on me," and they give us euros, like we're supposed to spend that somewhere. But also, it doesn't go to me. Like it doesn't. All it does, if you are interested in those things, is it potentially makes the show more viable, so we get to keep doing it. My boss doesn't yell at me quite as much, or I get €5 closer to hitting my financial goals for the quarter or whatever. But it's a lot less sexy than Jordan's like, "Oh, thank God, somebody gave me $5. I'm gonna go get a Bud Light." So I just want to put that out there. We really appreciate it. Now, that said, I watched 40 minutes of a Serbian film, and then I turned it off because I did not enjoy a second of it. And this is from Jason Himmler, who recommended it and gave a very generous amount of money for me to watch it. And so here are my thoughts. I wrote down some thoughts. I get that it's technically parodying politically correct Serbian art films for being boring, but it doesn't really mean anything to me. I'm not Serbian. I don't watch a lot of Serbian art films, so the fact that people are literally it's basically okay. Here's how I've described it. It feels a little bit like the Chad of movies, where it's like your middle school friend in the locker room is just trying to gross you out, just trying to think of the edgiest, dirtiest things. And inevitably, that means sex. It means violent sex. And it means sex with people that shouldn't be having sex, like infant children. And I don't think it's that cool or that shocking or that impressive. I mean, maybe that they found some funding at all to raise the money to make something horrific for some reason. But it's not that impressive to dream that up to me. And it's not even really that artistic to be like, ooh, I thought of the grossest thing ever, and then I filmed it. I actually think that movies tend to do better when and I say this as somebody who loves violent movies and crazy movies and horror movies and stuff like that. I usually tend to like it better if I think that one of the great things about film is that you can actually hide things or not show everything and let the tension of a thing sort of play out in your mind or in your emotions, and you can pick and choose your moments, and you can basically hold something back every once in a while, and it actually is more effective than just being like, look, I'm having sex with an eye socket. Like that's just not.
Jordan just learned about similes and metaphors pretty
Yeah,
recently, so he's like pretty hung up on that stuff.
yeah, I'm very excited about that. Like I'm one of those people that actually thinks, so when the Hays Code came out, I think it was actually really interesting because it forced movie writers to get cleverer, right? Like that's where you get a lot of noir innuendo, and the comedies were a lot more. I'm not saying that movies should really be restricted like that. I just think I think working within restrictions is actually a good thing. Get out of here with giving me money to watch some psychedelic Japanese horror. Fine, maybe it'll go on the list, but I'm not beholden to anything. Leave me alone. I watched as much of a Serbian film as I could, and it was gross, and I didn't like it. And that's all I'm going to say on it, because what we really watched this week. Okay, great. So Brian thinks it's good. Brian made me watch Titan. I don't trust you either. The Haunting of Hill House, I have not seen the movie, but I have seen the show, and it freaking rules. As does Bly Manor, as does Midnight Mass, as does basically everything that Mike Flanagan touches. So here, we're at Signs. Somebody mentions that Signs cinematography is some of the best I've ever seen, and I actually agree. I think this movie does a really good job of what I'm talking about. It is an anti-Serbian film in the sense that it's, I think, very effective in the way that it chooses to show some things, chooses not to show some things, picks its moments. Jesse, recap it. How about that?
Recap Signs. Okay, so
If you haven't seen it, it's the 20-year anniversary of it, so that's a reason to do it with other things.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. We got a small town priest, right? Is that what he is? A priest? Not sure if that's.
Yes. Yep.
Great. Small town priest.
Catholic or Anglican or some kind of high church version.
Mm-hmm.
With a collar.
I knew that. I just want our audience to know.
I know you're the Christian guy. You know all the things. Yeah.
So this guy's got it all. He's living a perfect life until the second he meets a little bit of adversity when M. Night Shyamalan kills his wife. He immediately turns his back on God. But it turns out that God was just trying to help him kill aliens. So once he realizes that God is just very anti-immigrant, all is forgiven. He's back on his God shit, and he goes about, continues to have a happy life.
That is a perfect summation of this film. And the reason that we're watching it, other than it being the 20-year anniversary, is I don't know. We were just talking about Jesse. You mentioned it. Why did you want to watch it?
Well, yeah, I was trying to put myself in my own shoes 20 years ago, and I remember really enjoying this one in the theaters. I think I saw it like 2 or 3 times in theaters for whatever reason. And I generally don't like scary movies. I think it was the same year The Ring came out, and I remember watching that and like doing I was on a date. I was on a date in like middle school, and at the scary parts, I would put my hat down like this so it wouldn't look like I was looking away.
Yeah. Right.
But for some reason, Science was like the right type and right amount of scary for me.
Yeah.
Well, because they do, like, from the beginning, like the music, the ambiance at the very like during the title sequence is like purposefully like horrific and stinging and eerie and creepy and stuff. So they use a lot of like horror crutches, but it's still, even besides that, it's like it makes you think. There's a lot of cool commentary. It's also just a really funny movie. I forgot that it's actually pretty funny.
It is, and it's funny too. So I did not see it in theaters because obviously I'm significantly younger than you are. Many years. No, I was
obviously
when I came out, I think I was 10 or 11 or something. And one of the interesting things about this movie is that it in the first year or something, it made like $34 million on DVD rentals, which is over $50 million today. And today money is probably over 75 million in the past 3 weeks or whatever with all the inflation. But we rented it and we rented it like multiple times because my whole family, to your point, like even my sisters who are younger than me, we were watching it like crazy because we thought it was great. But I did enjoy revisiting it 20 years later because I don't know, whatever I liked as a kid. Obviously, we watched Old not that long ago, and I was like, damn, maybe I'm wrong. Like I tend to feel like I'm an M. Night apologist, but I didn't love Glass, and I freaking did not love Old, and I was like, maybe it's falling apart.
Do you think Do you think it's that by now, by the time Old came out, he's been doing like the same tricks over and over again, and with Signs it was fresh, but by
I
now it's like whatever, man.
I do think so. I think it's interesting you bring that up because I wrote this down where a lot of the actual camera moves feel very similar to Old. He
Hmm.
loves having his camera on a tripod and slowly turning it, as opposed to he doesn't
Hmm.
do a lot of cuts. And on Old, those annoying as hell. I don't know, just something about it. Just like I think it's because they had 38 characters and it's like this friggin' beach. And the other thing too that I noticed is early in the movie, Mel Gibson is almost distractingly not emoting, like he's
Yes.
pretty like weirdly subdued. But
Mhm.
what it does is that by the end of the movie, obviously when he cracks, like that scene, um Jason. All right, I'm just gonna. Jason is the one that forced us to do this. He gives us money, and I really appreciate it. Even though, again, it doesn't really affect me or help me in any significant way, but I do appreciate you caring and
It
giving me a
is
new experience. Although I hated every second of it.
seeing money happen does give me a boost of dopamine, so
Yeah,
don't stop, never stop.
but like the Mel Gibson scene where they're at the dinner table and his son says that he hates him and he's like, "Fine, I'm going to eat all your food." I
Yeah.
like, ugh, I felt that. Also, it's probably important to note Mel Gibson has since revealed he's not the best guy in a lot of senses. I don't fully I haven't like kept up with all the bad things he's done or said, but so caveat, I don't
While
like
we're
yeah,
Yeah,
go
while
ahead.
we're mentioning that Mel Gibson is like kind of a monster, it's very funny that this character is like allergic to cursing at all and is also like this
Yeah.
like godlike supportive parent
Yeah.
because of that infamous phone call where he just like cursed out his daughter in all sorts of horrible ways.
Yeah.
Just very funny that this is
It
the exact
is.
opposite.
Yeah, he's crazy. He does like insane stunts that are not kind and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But
And he's
dude's
isn't he an anti-Semite?
well, he at least is when he's yelling at people. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's people are so shitty when they're mad. It's hard to tell if they're just trying to get your whatever, like to because it's like with swearing. I think when you swear a lot, it's sort of like you hit your cap too early when you're yelling at somebody, and you
Hmm.
have to resort to more and more horrible things to like no, you're like, I am mad. Like I really need to convince you, and I can't just be just dropping F bombs. I gotta say slurs. I gotta tell you that I'm gonna do things to you that you would only find in Serbian films, stuff like that.
Yeah. Here,
And so
Jordan
it's
thought he
hard
was
to
an M. Night Shyamalan apologist. He's just a straight up Mel Gibson apologist.
yeah, I love that dude. But all that to say, he's a pretty good actor. I get why he's like
Yeah.
still working now, even though a lot of people are like, I don't want to see anything with Mel Gibson. But I was really impressed with the way that they did that. Like, he seems like he's not emoting and maybe sucks at acting. And you're like, well, his wife just died. I think he's sort of hollowed out. He gave up on his freaking faith. And then he kind of learns to feel again. Like it's pretty great. I don't know. It's a pretty impressive thing.
Yeah.
Um,
The way that I think whatever M. Night Shyamalan's doing with his like with like filming his actors, in Signs it came off like, holy shit, these kids are creepy. Mel Gibson is weird. He's got this like glassy exterior, but you know there's a lot going on inside.
right.
Joaquin Phoenix is like he's kind of a clown inside and out, but even he had some like really surprisingly dramatic moments.
Hmm.
But in Old, it seems like he was doing similar things, and it just came off as like these actors don't even know what direction the camera's in. They
Right.
just lost all the soul that whichever Culkin this one was had.
Rory. Yeah,
Rory.
and that's the other thing too about Old that I mentioned. It's like it shouldn't matter that English isn't the first language of some characters, but it's sort of to pin it all on the French woman. It just never felt. It always felt there's some weird like play level distance, some kind of like it just felt very staged and odd. And in
Mhm.
this, somebody mentioned earlier the cinematography. They do such cool stuff with like really deep shots where they've got um one that just springs to mind is Joaquin Phoenix is watching TV. Or no, he's not. He's reading a pamphlet about joining the army because he thinks he's a loser piece of shit. And then the kids are in the background doing the dishes, which, is probably in a traditional family is more of a mom thing after dinner, or at least a parent thing. It's not usually a like 7 and 5-year-old thing. And then Mel Gibson, who has just encountered an alien, comes in from the frame and sits down, and slowly they all kind of notice him and come to him, but the camera never moves. And they do a lot of just really well staged, really cool, emotional, even for jokes. Like when Mel Gibson is talking to Joaquin Phoenix and he's like, I think M. Night Shyamalan called me, I'm going to go to his house. And he opens the closet, he grabs his coat, and he's leaving. And he's talking this whole time to Joaquin Phoenix, who you assume is behind him in the living room. And then as he leaves, Joaquin Phoenix sticks his head out the door from the closet and is like, oh yeah, that sounds good, or whatever. It's great. I just think it's so thoughtful, I guess, in a way that a Serbian film is not, Jason.
Yeah, I feel like how many movies had M. Night Shyamalan done to this point?
This might be his third. This is because I don't think anybody started to think the magic was running out until The Village. That's when it started. People started to go, wait a minute. Yeah, The Village, and then Lady in the Water. People were like, and then The Happening. Everybody's like, no, I'm done. And then Airbender and After Earth, and then he kind of won it back with The Visit and Split. And now he's kind of he's made so many movies now. It's like he's I think the general consensus is like, dude is really good at some things and really bad at other things, and he doesn't seem to have a great sense of what those things are, and keeps just sort of, who knows. Anyway, but yeah, so third. So he'd made Sixth Sense, which is one of the highest, like the most amount of money that was ever paid by a studio for an original script.
Oh,
like, wow. They just read it and were like, this story rips. It's going to be a great movie. And then it was. And then he did Unbreakable. Have you ever seen Unbreakable?
Actually, no, I never watched it.
That one is also, I think, just amazing. Bruce Willis, rest in peace, just killing it with Sam Jack. And then this movie. So very early.
It really felt like in this movie he was still fighting for like to create a legacy, whereas in his later garbage movies he's just like, yeah, I'm M. Night Shyamalan. I like do a cameo in a car and I have a little twist and then everybody goes home and has fun. But here he's like really trying to like make a name for himself. It felt like.
Yeah, I agree, because it's so. I think there are definitely things that we can point out that are goofy in the script, like you already did. The faith, the idea that God would kill your wife and make your daughter and make your son have asthma and make your daughter weird about water solely to kill aliens later is a very kind of like, when you sit down, you're like, that would make my faith worse. If God is like, like if God is destroying my family rather than the aliens, you know what I mean?
Right. Destroying my family rather than the aliens, or rather than even just like write a message like in the shower fog on the mirror or something. It's just like aliens don't like water. It also reveals like aliens are outside of God's control, but he can like see them. He knows that they're on their way and they're going to try and destroy the world. But he can't intervene. He seems unable to intervene except through, cryptic murders.
And it's like, I don't think that he tried to think about it. I mean, I think you back all the way up and you say, well, it's faith, and he's trying not to intervene too much, because if he writes it in the fog, then like, A, that's a boring movie, and B, that destroys the concept of faith. Like if it's written out for you and whatever. Faith requires some like some stepping out onto the bridge in Last Crusade, the Indiana Jones movie, which he cheats by throwing dirt on it. So that's Indiana Jones is going straight to hell. But so that's a little goofy. The idea that they would attack this planet and not realize that water is like a real bad problem. And even if it is a big deal and they didn't know about it, like put on like a shirt or something, you know what I mean? Like it's not the hardest thing to avoid in some ways.
they could breathe our air, but they couldn't touch like, or whatever 80% of the surface of our planet.
That's a little goofy. It is similar to War of the Worlds, where it's like, oh, you guys didn't realize we get sick all the time?
Dude, I had that written down as like, at one point Joaquin Phoenix says, it's like War of the Worlds.
Right.
Like, that's like if Sonic turned a camera and was like, it's like Sonic the Hedgehog, the video game. It's like, yeah, dude, we know what this is.
Well, I think, okay, so to his credit in that moment, I actually think this movie does a really good job of setting everything up that happens before it happens. So I think that actually was literally just foreshadowing the ending, potentially. Like, what defeats them is not who has the biggest, bestest nuke. It's like a weird facet of, not weird, but like a natural facet of Earth that they like hadn't considered. But a couple of other ones that I really liked were, so the dog gets hurt. No, the dog is going crazy at the beginning.
Yeah.
And they're like, take it to Doctor whatever. And they're like, he's not a vet.
He's not a vet.
But then you realize that M. Night Shyamalan's character is a vet. So yeah, right. So he didn't.
Oh, so he didn't want the kids to go see M. Night Shyamalan.
Right. He would rather take the dog to a human doctor, even though that might not work because the vet happens to be the guy that killed his wife.
It's so funny. He's like, I gotta beef with the vet. Take it to the mechanic.
Well, it's more than a beef, but you know, yeah, the mechanic. Little things like that. Obviously all the water stuff, the breathing stuff.
There was like, the water stuff was cool. Like the foreshadowing, like there was the little girl was watching an episode of Dexter's Lab where like Dexter gets like dunked in water and stuff. I don't think that had any direct correlation to like how to use the water, but just a fun little nostalgic, brief romp.
Yeah. And I don't know what's going on in these comments, but Jason Himmler yelling, "Murder is okay." So sounds like it's going great. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think it to me felt like I felt sometimes in movies you can feel, I mean, the worst example is probably TV shows. So I don't know if you know this. Have you ever watched any Westworld by any chance?
Yeah, first couple of seasons, yeah.
Okay, so in the first season, they actually had to stop halfway through, and all the writers come together and say, "So what the hell is happening?" Because they had set up all these mysteries, but they didn't bother to solve them. And so they sort of realized, oh my God, we need to do that because at some point, the show needs to end or like be going somewhere. And I think what I really appreciate about this movie is that he knew the end. He knew everybody's everything. And so that kind of stuff gets fed in the background that you don't really realize until later even matters. Just, I don't know, just all the little things, like, again, the vet and the everything else just makes it really cool. I just felt like he was very much in control of what he was doing. And again, like all these shots that were intentionally landing somewhere or doing something or showing something really interesting. Even if they're just setting up effective scare moments, like, I don't know if you noticed, but when the kid gets grabbed in the basement, that hand is in there the whole shot.
Yes, I went back and rewound that. He's like, it's like camouflaged because that's what the alien superpower is, like a little bit of camouflage, but yeah, it's there.
That was the other thing, is on the radio they're saying the aliens left. They left so fast they actually left some of their wounded. And then the guy upstairs is the alien that he cut the fingers off of.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just little things, I guess. I don't know. It's not like anybody could have written that, but for whatever reason, he actually bothered to. And I just thought it was clever enough that it's like everything is generally tied to itself. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with it.
Yeah. It's interesting that when he finally faces off against an alien, it's an alien that somehow against all odds he has a history with. For most of the movie, the aliens are just completely invisible or they're a rumor or whatever. And then he does have this brief encounter. Like it's a little dumb that the alien gets trapped in the pantry, but they also address that. They're like, they have trouble with pantry doors.
Well, but they even earlier in the movie, in the book, they were like, hey, they're not very strong because they're so smart.
That's True.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like whether you think, it's at least even if you think some of the things are dumb, like it's still a little bit dumb to make a movie about aliens too weak to get out of the pantry, but at least the movie told you it was going to do that. It didn't just say, "Oh my God," like he broke down the door 5 minutes ago, but now we would need him to be weak, so he's locked in the pantry. At least it's consistent, I guess, is my thing. I just appreciate that it knew what it was doing.
Yeah. I feel like M. Night Shyamalan was in his phase of like when you're making internet content at the beginning, you're like, oh, I got to read all these comments. Oh no, they're going to be mad about this. I got to make sure to preempt that. And it does help. It does makes for, an effective content creation process. But after a few, you're like, I don't care. The commenters are going to be mad. I'm not even going to bother patching these holes.
Well, okay. So I think that's actually, have you seen The Visit by any chance?
Nope.
Do you mind if I spoil it for you?
Spoil it, man.
Okay. Everyone, I'm about to spoil The Visit, which in a lot of ways is a good movie. But ultimately, when you realize what the twist is, which is basically the whole movie feels like it's been set in this like 17th century Puritan thing. And then you realize...
I did see that actually. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Right. Because you sort of forget about it. But you realize it's set... Oh, wait. Am I saying The Visit? Did I say The Village? The Village.
You said The Visit, but I think you're thinking of...
I mean The Village. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Visit is great. Go watch that as well. But The Village, it's set during the modern day, whatever. But what's weird about it is their whole thing is they made up these fake monsters to keep people in, and they need to keep the ruse alive, but they need to get medicine to help some kid. So they send a blind girl into the woods, and it's like, all the elders both know that the monsters aren't real and are not blind. There's no reason they couldn't go, except that maybe there's something in the background of like, well, Jeff might get seduced again by the outside world, even though he's been very diligently staying here with fake monsters and shit. But it's just like, that's one of those things where it's like, it makes sense. Like she had to do it because she was blind and she won't learn about the whatever. And you're like, yeah, but just send Jeff. It doesn't make any sense to send her. Whether you think it's safe or not, it's like, don't send a blind woman into the woods. Come on. Or she ran into issues, even if you didn't expect like the autistic guy to try and stab her, anyway, stuff like that. This one for me didn't have that. It's like the things that are goofy are things that still are inherent and make sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the God thing or the water thing. It's like, well, maybe you think the aliens are dumb, but the aliens could just be dumb. It's not like they're having to defy just all logic whatsoever. Maybe they didn't know about water. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. There's he goes to enough lengths, and maybe the twist here, where like the underlying like cool thing to the movie is worth it for some of like the light plot holes. Whereas like, yeah, if in The Village, like the twist is like, oh, you thought it was old times, but it's really modern times. You're just like, all right, okay. Was it too many hoops to jump through for that twist?
It is interesting, I think, but I don't think it doesn't really recontextualize anything other than, oh, so if they all knew, why did they send a blind girl?
Yeah.
That's all it does for me. And it's like, oh, that's compelling. Like that would be kind of cool, but it doesn't necessarily change a lot about the way that the movie works. But yeah, anyway. I was gonna say, to your point earlier, like the movie is surprisingly funny. Like the scene where Mel Gibson is running around trying to say swears, is great.
What is he? I'm like, I'm blind with rage.
Yeah. And Joaquin Phoenix's whole story about miracles. The reason he believes in miracles is because he almost kissed a girl that threw up in his mouth.
Dude, so funny. He's doing it with the same gravitas as like Mel Gibson, like right. Telling his kid that his mom loved him or whatever. It's Joaquin Phoenix, like just this like washed up jock being like, I almost kissed puke. I saw God that night.
Joaquin Phoenix is so freaking good. I mean, that's part of the thing, is that Mel Gibson is apparently a great actor. I never really thought about it that hard.
Never met the guy.
Yeah, I don't know about his politics. But Joaquin Phoenix, everything he's in, he's amazing. And so, but when I think of Joaquin Phoenix, I wouldn't think, dumb jock, like a dumb jock guy.
Yeah.
And yet that's the whole thing, is they made him a dumb jock that has this whole other layer of like, like he wants to be a serious, thoughtful guy, and
Mhm.
he sort of gets there, but also he just is a freaking idiot. But like he
Mhm.
loves Mel Gibson's character, he loves the kids, he knows they're going through a hard time, he's trying to help.
Yeah,
He's
he
thinking
moved
about joining
in.
the army. Yeah.
Right, he, like, moved in with his brother after his brother's wife died. That's, like, a nice thing to do, like, he's a just such a full character.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's so good.
I
You know
just
what?
I
You know
Go
what
ahead.
struck me? Both, like, some of the cinematography and some just, like, Joaquin Phoenix's character, it felt a lot like Napoleon Dynamite. Like, a lot of the stuff that's played for, like, comedic awkwardness in Napoleon Dynamite is done here for, like, this weird dramatic stuff, you know? Like,
That's
the
funny.
times that it lingers on the kids just being extra weird. Um, the fact like, Joaquin Phoenix is basically Uncle Rico, like, recounting his glory days, like, "Man, I bet you I could throw that football over that mountain over there."
Yeah, where the general's like, he's like, "Yeah, I have all the baseball records," and the other guy's like, "Yeah, and the shitty ones." And
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
mean, that was funny. It's also, like, so absurd that this, like, decorated war veteran at the recruitment office would be like, "Oh, yeah, I remember you, and I remember specifically the high point of your life because it was also, like, the proudest moment this town has seen in decades." Like, that's such a goofy
well,
ass thing to happen.
yeah, I guess, but it
I
does
don't mean
feel
it
like it.
critically, I guess, but it
Yeah,
added to the comedy of it.
yeah, for sure. Well, and like the comedy of, you want to. I assume this was written in, but like they stack all of those like bags of gravel or whatever on the vent to stop the thing, and then he grabs the can of like tomato juice and sticks that on top.
Yes, that motion was like a very Napoleon Dynamite like thing to do.
Yeah.
So funny. And this is I looked it up. This is 2 or 3 years before Napoleon Dynamite. So I don't know if there's got to be some common ancestor that or some movie or some genre where like these movies are both borrowing from, but it struck me as so similar.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just because that's the thing is there for a while. I really thought M. Night Shyamalan was a great, great writer because his first stuff I always thought was funny. I thought it was emotional. I thought he hit a lot of themes. And then we've kind of gotten far enough along that's like, and then sometimes he's just not like old is just not good. Like there's just a lot of things about it that really suck. And it's some of the writing is suck, like some of the jokes and just the weird things. But this one, yeah, it just felt really tight. I will say that my hot take for this movie is that I actually think this is, in my opinion, significantly better than Nope, with a lot of similar themes, a lot of similar vibes.
Whoa. Hmm.
I like Nope. I thought it was really
Wow.
good, but rewatching this so close together, I was like, I don't know. Even like the scary animal stuff, like a 4-year-old kid having to impale a dog on a skewer is
Yeah. And the fact
brutal.
they dredged up so much like dark, like gross emotion in me without even showing a kid murder a dog, showing the aftermath of this completely calm Culkin having just stabbed a dog in the throat or whatever.
Right, like, I don't wanna see that. Like, I don't think I even need to see that. Like, I don't know that it would be more affecting to watch a kid stabbing a dog over and over with a barbecue thing. Like, and again, that scene is preempted. They're grilling, and the kid is like, "Damn it, dad's gonna burn the chicken again." So
Oh
he's over there
yeah.
flipping it. So it's just like, 'cause, you didn't wanna he didn't wanna make it like, "Oh, he had a switchblade," because kids, they always have it's like, well and, that is the theme of the movie, right? Like, it's miracles and everything has a purpose and I don't
Hmm.
think he's a Christian. I don't know why he decided he cared about that for this movie, but I do think it's really interesting, and it
Oh
maybe
yeah.
it's just a good writing challenge to be like, nothing can happen unless it's already been preempted.
You got to wonder if like that's how they got Mel Gibson on board, or maybe came up with this in conjunction with Mel.
You
You don't
think
think
you
that's?
think all these actors are just choosing solely based on personal beliefs? I really think that
I
sometimes they
bet.
just wanna make movies.
I guess so. But Mel Gibson. I mean, when was Passion of the Christ? You know, like that's become Mel Gibson's like magnum
Yeah,
opus.
I know, it was after, but not significant 3 years later. I mean, yeah, but he also has made just, like, white dude in a Mexican prison shoots everyone, like, that doesn't mean any
Yeah,
I
but that's also what he's passionate about.
maybe, uh Maybe it is a reason that he did it. I don't know, but
Well, you heard it here. You got the scoop here, folks. That's why Mel did it.
you're going
Mel
to be
feels
writing one of those looper like signs ending explained.
yeah,
Mel
yeah.
Gibson is a Christian, which what he is in real life. Whoa. See, you'll see it here. We'll have that video very soon.
Mhm.
Uh, anyway, did you have any other?
Yeah, let me see.
Oh, that's having that general say, "Why aren't you in the major leagues making boatloads of cash and having your toes licked by beautiful women?"
So funny. Where the hell did that come from? It's such a good comedic line. Get toes licked by beautiful women.
Well, because it's a rule of threes. Why aren't you in the majors? Why aren't you making boatloads of cash? And the third thing that makes no sense, like that's just revealing something about you, dude.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Oh, man.
if I
So
made
funny.
it, my toes would be getting licked. Or like the thing where he's like, they're in the bookstore and he's like, it's a hoax. It's just to sell soda. I've seen 12 soda commercials, and he's like 13. Just great.
Yeah.
It's just
There's
tight.
something about this community, this town also compared to say like Stranger Things or A Quiet Place, where like you get to know the town and the townspeople and it's like small town America.
Yeah.
But it always like in most movies it takes itself seriously. Like all these people are like are all but saying like I'm a hardworking American man. And here it's like, yeah, I'm in the army and I love toe sucking. You got like the grungy metalhead, like also at the army recruitment office for some reason that day to sign up for army. And like,
Andrew, sometimes yes, a lot of times no. We are really flying by the seat of our pants here. I apologize, but
and we have one pair of pants that the three of us share too, which makes it hard to fly by.
yeah, it's the sisterhood of the traveling pants, but in real life, and it's only a movie podcast. So yes, when I know, I say it at the end, but I don't know 95% of the time. I don't know. We don't know what we're doing. We're just
We're still new to this. How long's it been? Coming up on a year?
yeah, it's been a while. But that's the thing too is or I was just gonna say just about that scene is you actually get to see the brother that they've been talking about this whole time that could maybe be an alien, and then
Wait,
they keep being like, oh, it's Jeff's boy or whatever. They keep saying, it's him and his goofy friends. Do you remember that? Like they're always
oh
saying that.
yeah,
Then that's him right there. And not only is he not very intimidating, Joaquin Phoenix literally just bucks at him and he jumps. And it's
and he
like,
jumps. Yeah,
we think that
so
that's the
funny.
dude. That's what everybody thinks has been
That's
like.
Lionel Pritchard. They're always talking about Lionel Pritchard and the
Yeah.
Wolfington brothers. Such a good name for
Yeah.
local
Like, or a
no good
band.
do-gooders.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so it's great. And to
It's
your
like a
point,
it's almost like a Seinfeld or like a like an Always Sunny kind of style rivalry. Like you always hear about Lionel Pritchard, and he's just this little twerp, long
yeah.
hair.
Yeah. He's just like the one guy in the town that isn't attending church regularly
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Um, what I was gonna say though is that the other like it it does such an effective job. So when he goes to the pharmacy, and the woman there is like, I need to confess all these swears, which is
Yeah.
very funny in and of itself because at first she's like, is douchebag a swear? Because if it is, I got to add like 90 more swears to my weekly swear total because it's just funny
Yeah.
to think that she says douchebag like incessantly and didn't realize if it was a swear or not. And also he's like, well, it depends. He's like, what about if Jeff is a douchebag? He's like,
That's a
yep.
swear.
But it's interesting both because it shows how scared she is because she's like, I think the world's ending. I need to get this off.
Oh
But
yeah.
also it's such an interesting parallel to like what he's going through that she's still like, I need your help, guy whose wife was obliterated by a truck. It's just interesting. It's kind of a small town preacher thing, I would think, is like, everybody's
Mm.
everything, no matter how freaking stupid it is, and no matter what's going on with you. It just felt very realistic to me, as like, you know, in a small town where presumably there's one church, there's a lot of emotional weight being thrown on the pastor because also like there's probably not a
Mm.
counselor or like a therapist. and so he's still kind of forced into these roles. Everybody's calling him father, all that stuff. I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious if you have more insight on like this from the perspective of, an ordained whatever you are, but like just somebody, you've thought more about religion and spirituality than I have.
I mean, the only major things are obviously when this movie came out, everybody at church was like freaking out because they were like, "Oh my god, like it's so spiritual, it's crazy." And because it is ultimately a pro God, it doesn't get into the specifics of like the Holy Trinity and Jesus salvation or anything, but it does, it is pretty pro like just general
Faith.
vague believing in God and whatever else,
Yeah. I
which
think it's
is
pretty deliberately like, hey, don't lose the faith. Or it's kind of like, if you lose the faith, don't worry about it because you're going to get it back. God
yeah.
always prevails.
Yeah, and so people really liked it from that perspective. I think the thing that I like about it, it's actually a little bit similar to Fleabag. Um, Fleabag does this better. Have you seen Fleabag by any chance?
Mm-mm.
So in the second season, there's a hot preacher, or hot priest, and I think that's literally his character name is Hot
I've heard
Priest.
about Hot Priest. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that I think is so good about that, I think Martin McDonagh has, or maybe it's his brother in this movie called Cavalry. And anyway, I think it's important if we're going to bother to show anybody of any faith in a movie, they should be struggling with it, because I just don't think it's very realistic to show somebody who just always has it, And I think that's
Hmm.
the downfall of a lot of Christian movies, is they're mostly all just like trying to convince other people of what they themselves are already completely convinced of, and nothing you can do will ever change my mind or anything like that. And I just I appreciate that this movie, he literally says that he hates God,
Right. Yeah.
and yet he comes back from it. And I think that just shows like the just a lot more nuanced and thoughtful approach to like human experience. Like none of us are able to perfectly adhere to all of our codes all the time anyway. And I don't know. So I really liked it from that perspective. I liked it a lot better than like if he had a cross in one hand and a shotgun in the other hand. He's like, God, power of Christ compels, power of Christ and Remington or whatever compels you.
Yeah. Like I would like to see like the Detective Crashmore version of Signs, or at least of Mel Gibson's character.
And I also think, I don't think it would be a problem, but I think it would be less interesting too if he's like, I've given up on it and I'm not even struggling anymore. I think God sucks, and the moral of this story is nobody's going to help us, and we have to set all the aliens on fire ourselves. I do think that would still be fine, but I think it's more interesting. I mean, it's an arc, it's a movie. You should have an arc if you can. And so I thought that was really, yeah. The God is dead prequel. God is dead until till that stupid kid convinces Kevin Sorbo that he is not.
Yeah.
I did do the
So-
music for two of them,
oh, that's
Joe
right.
Avrig. So watch my really long video where I talk about God's not dead. Like within 5 minutes, I'm talking about how I did the music, and they stiffed me. Swing away, Jordan.
Swing away, Jordan.
So
So
yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was
what's
handled well.
yeah. Now what's like Christianity's general take? You need to speak for all Christians on the planet.
Yeah, we all agree
Like
with me.
on aliens. Like, and especially in this case, it seems like God does not have control over aliens. God
Right.
is like on opposite ends of the
Well, even if he
battlefield from
did,
aliens.
I mean, he presumably has control over other bad things that still happen. So
That's true.
I
So
don't think aliens seem exempt in this case in
yeah.
any special way.
In this, it felt like in this movie, God's got Earth, but then he doesn't have control of the rest of the universe. Like, I feel like that would be a big hurdle for Christians to like accept the concept of aliens.
So I think in a very general sense, the concept of other species, sentient species, should not be considered controversial, because angels pre-existed humans.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to call them aliens. I don't personally see any reason why they couldn't exist. It seems like just mathematically they probably do in a general sense. I think the thing that gets confusing and difficult to parse out is, all right, so if the whole thing is that humans needed saving, and like the whole thing is that Jesus taking on the sin of the world to die for humanity or whatever is like, so what, where would the Wookiees factor in? Like, it's a little bit tricky to, or like, did Jesus die here for the Wookiees sins? Like if they're sentient furry creatures somewhere else,
Hmm,
or did they have their own furry Jesus? And like,
right.
there's just like a whole extra side of the theology that we don't know anything about, because all that mattered was our slice. Like that's all, it's a need to know kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's so confusing that it's hard to really build. It's also like, what do you do with it? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it would break the religion if Wookiee showed up. Like, I think it would for some people maybe, but I don't see how it would. But I do think presumably there's a whole kind of, regardless of whether there's Wookiees or not, surely whatever humans understand about like any religion at all has to be completely minuscule compared to what is probably happening. Just if there's a god behind it, then surely whatever the hell you think about it is very, very small, and you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I thought it was that. Oh, I'm dumb as hell.
But what's so tough though is like when some religions will or just people of religions will state as fact this is the way the world either does work or should work, and then that's when you start getting like anti-abortion laws because abortion angers God. But at the same time, we just don't know enough about say that their religion is the correct religion. We don't know really anything about the deity that designed it. And
Right.
yeah, I just think that's whatever. I'm not saying anything new, but
Yeah. I
it,
heard a really good talk once that was talking about like, um, conceivably, uh, in order for us to understand anything at all, it required this translation of an impossible thing to communicate to us. So what we have is kind of like the best approximation. Yeah, I know. Sorry, Jesse brought it up.
I,
Um,
I'm interested in a philosophical discussion.
um, so it's like it's a condescension already of like whatever is actually true. Trying to put it in human terms already waters the thing down so much as to be, like it's a courtesy, and it's like a grace that we would be extended any possible knowing of anything at all, but ultimately it still pales in comparison to whatever is actually true,
Hmm.
um assuming that is true. And so I think that's when you talk about anti-abortion stuff, like Judaism believes differently. That's pretty much the same for the first 40 books or so. And so I do think that the approach that makes the most sense is kind of this humble idea that you probably don't know. And so it's worth being open to everything and having discussions, because I still think you want to have convictions, and I think you want to work out of your beliefs and your convictions.
Hmm.
But I don't think you have to extend that to everybody else all the time. You know what I mean? Like, why
Sure.
would you force other people to adhere to your standards and beliefs if ultimately what you want is for them to agree with you or whatever? Like forcing them to act in your morality if they don't believe it is like, honestly, what we were talking about offline. I was talking about the difference
Thinking that,
with
yeah.
my kids of the difference between moral issues and skill building. So like our daughter is not sleeping as well as I would like, and I'm not going to punish her. It's not a moral issue that she wakes me up early or whatever. It's a skill. And so I feel better bribing her about it, because I just want her to make that connection. You sleep in, it's good. Great. But if I was bribing her every time that she said I'm sorry to her sister for clobbing her in the head or whatever, then you're building this kind of shitty faux moral training or whatever. And now it's like she's not learning to do it because she should respect others. It's still very much tied to, but maybe sugar. And I want her to, of her own soul, be able to recognize the pain of somebody else and do that. And so, but blow this all the way out to like gay marriage or abortion or something. Like shitting on gay couples because they're getting married is not going to make them more of what you want or what you think is, if anything, it's going to push people further away. So it doesn't really make any sense if you believe that. If you don't believe gay people should be married, then don't do it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't see how forcing that on somebody else makes your conviction stronger or whatever. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
any sense, but
No, yeah, it does. And I only, yeah, took, obviously the conversation took a turn, but because I think when we mentioned like, would this break religion? I feel like it should, because we are living and societies around the world and throughout time have been living under rules that were based in religions under the auspice that like the people that put those rules in place say that this is the way things work and we have to live this way. If and when we make alien contact, which could happen at like any second, we might suddenly be like, oh, we now know that aliens exist. Then like, how can those people be like, well, we got to change the rules on the back end now because because like the evidence is a little bit different, but we're still very certain about the abortion and the gay marriage stuff.
yeah, I don't know that I don't know that aliens are going to show up and be like, not me. I don't know that somebody's going to show up and they see aliens and like, oh, maybe I was wrong about gay marriage because there are Wookiees and I want to have sex with a Wookiee.
I mean,
that's what
I think I'm saying the same thing too. And also importantly, I'm not saying that that's your mindset. I'm not saying that's the mindset of the vast majority of religious people.
I don't think Wookiees should get married.
Not to my daughter.
My daughter will not be marrying any furry anything. Yeah, Wookiees are gay, David Williamson.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah, so I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. I do think it's an interesting question. One of the ways that I know I've done that thing before where I showed you that Punnett square of truth, where it's like known, unknown, objective, subjective. So the whole thing is that like they actually use that with aliens, where aliens are not a faith, or sorry, no, they are a faith thing. Faith is a thing that is true but unknown. So like there is an answer, you just don't know what it is. So if aliens exist, the reason it's different than an opinion, like you don't have an opinion whether aliens exist, because if aliens exist, they're going to blow you up, or like it doesn't matter.
They're just going to use hand-to-hand combat, you see.
But I mean, it's not like your personal truth or whatever, like that exists apart from you, as opposed to, so that's what you have is a theory or a faith about it. And so it's that thing. So it's like aliens either exist or they don't, and if they showed up, they would blow you up and it wouldn't matter what you believed at the time. And when they were showing us this stuff, they were saying it's a similar argument to God or faith or like religion or whatever, is that somebody is more correct than somebody else, whether it's an atheist, whether it's a Muslim, whether it's Hindu, because there is an answer, right? Like it presumably, if nothing, if atheism is true and nothing matters, or not nothing matters, but like nothing happens when you die or whatever, somebody's more right than somebody else or whatever. And we're all affected similarly. Maybe. I mean, I guess there could be, maybe the person who thinks that all paths are viable is the most correct. And then that sort of negates it a little bit, but you know what I mean? Just like, it's not an opinion, I don't think. And aliens are similar, or are like one of those entry points that we use a lot, or they used in this trying to talk about what is true and what's not true. Because like the alternative is a subjective unknown, which is it's not possible. That'd be like saying, I think I mentioned this to you. It's like, which of my mom's dinners is your favorite, Jesse? You can't of the subject have a say because you don't
that you know of. Wouldn't that be fucked up if I did?
I don't know. Maybe my mom has a second family in New Jersey that she's cooking spaghetti for all the time or something.
Great spaghetti.
Anyway, so that movie was pretty good though.
Yeah. Well, look, I think this is what happens when you make a movie that isn't just deliberately like, here are the 7 to 10 like most fucked up things I can think of, i.e. Serbian film. It's like this is a layered thing that makes you think, man.
Well, and it seems to point towards certain truths, but the fact that M. Night Shyamalan is not in fact Kevin Sorbo, I think makes it more interesting. Like, he made this movie that seems to be pro-faith, but there's nothing to suggest that he had an agenda to make it that. He just made a character where it would be interesting for them to go from faith to not faith to faith, which I think anybody should feel like empowered to write and not necessarily have an agenda behind it. Like, imagine if his whole thing was that he was pro-gun and then anti-gun, and then he realized guns were really good at killing aliens, and he was pro-gun again. Like, you would just feel like, well, you're like trying to make some really weird point.
I was surprised that there weren't really guns here. This seems like a family and a community that would have a lot of guns, but I guess they all just got baseball bats.
Well, he's like a preacher. I mean, ostensibly, you would think that Christian people would not love guns.
I don't know. I think the opposite.
Well,
I don't know. In my experience,
culturally, that seems true, but
right.
I think probably when you think about not killing things, guns are good at that. Anyway, that's why they got to kill things with skewers.
My only last thought is that I thought it was so funny that even I knew what the twist was. Like, the wife's last words were telling her whatever brother-in-law to swing away at the aliens, and I thought it was like immediately he's going to swing at the glasses of water. But his first chop is he's just hitting an alien with a baseball bat, which is like very funny. I don't know. It could be clunky in other circumstances, but this movie was already so funny that it felt fine.
I wish that the alien had posed any threat in that scene at all. He gasses the kid, and that sucks. But he really just stands there and lets him hit him 4 or 5 times, probably.
Yeah.
Like, he just really doesn't make an effort to escape. He doesn't make an effort to fight back. He's kind of just imposing, which is just a little weird.
You think if they're these like ultra smart but ultra weak things, you think they'd be a little more skitterish, you know, like stay to the corners, try and get away all the time. He was just standing there like flexing on him.
Right. And so I do think that's, to your point, like, technically he also could have just picked up a glass of water and thrown it at him, and it would have worked just as well as a baseball bat, if not better.
Yeah, definitely. Actually,
so I get why people point that out, that it's a little bit goofy. It's like, the water, cool. That's really interesting. His lungs, awesome.
Yeah,
the baseball bat, like, I get that we're supposed to think that he's the hardest hittingest safety in the league. Hardest hittingest baseball player. Do you know the Greg Jennings? Have you seen this old YouTube video?
I don't think so.
Darren Sharp was the hardest hittingest. Some guy made a video where Greg Jennings, the Packers player from way back when, breaks his leg in Madden, but he was able to put the character back in, and he runs all the way down the field, and the guy's just doing really funny commentary. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful video.
We're watching that next week.
Yeah, and we're going to discuss it for an hour because it's amazing. But yeah, if the alien was more aggressive and he did have to like beat it off and then throw water at it or something. Yeah.
Heard it here first.
Crank away, jerk away.
You see, like, Mel Gibson looks over like dramatically at Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix is already like lathering up with moisturizer.
Stroke away.
Stroke away.
All right. Do you got anything else, or should we go to the my first line of defense? Beat the aliens off. All right. Does anyone have, or do you have any other like general thoughts you wanted to get to before?
Nah, I think we hit all my stuff. I wanted to talk about God and religion and faith for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, I figured. I know you. You're always cranking that out. You're always cranking one out when we talk about that stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to crank out some religious stuff.
Yeah. All right. We're going to the people. So you two are the faces of Cracks. Hats off to you, gents. Cracked is good shit. Thanks, Ben.
Oh,
we're not the only faces, but you know, we're here.
Now's a good time, Brian, to pop your face in.
Since Serbia is mentioned a lot in the chat, I'm Serbian. I would suggest the movie Tokavi, or Wheels. Okay. I've been burned by some Serbian movies before, but maybe this one's one of those boring art house films that they are trying to satirize because they're not horny enough. Oh yeah. Zealot, we need an update and on that profile picture, and here it is.
Hey.
Wow, that's
Mama YouTube. Good.
Beat that off. All right. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. Guess Mel Gibson wanted a dead wife, or he could handle it, presumably.
For 6 months he couldn't. God gives his deadest wives to his mellest Gibsons.
Moses gets a burning bush. He got a dead wife. I'm not saying it's evenly distributed. What scene scared you the most? Oh, okay, that's actually a really great question. I love big tits. So obviously the classic scene where he walks by at the kids' party with the camcorder, which is already preempted by another hilarious moment where Joaquin Phoenix is like, "Move, children,
Yeah,
vamonos," which
vamonos.
they speak Portuguese in Brazil. So also just even funnier for me, as somebody with a Portuguese brother-in-law. But the scariest moment for me is actually when he sets the TV back up and the things in the TV in the black
Yeah.
mirror TV. That actually got me to jump this time, and I knew it was there, but I didn't know. I forgot it was in the TV. It was like, ah. So, do you have another
Really,
one?
really good. No, I mean that was super spooky. What struck me about the scene with the birthday party is that it's funny that they had to contrive a reason that somebody would have their camcorder out. Whereas if this is taking place today, you're gonna have video of it right away. There's that little
Yeah.
clip from a newsreel where they're like, "Oh, they started figuring out how to take them down in the Middle East, but no details yet." Whereas
Right.
like today, there'd be like 50 TikToks in the within 3
They're like
minutes.
dancing and shooting squirt guns at aliens and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also very fun that our audio only audience is not going to know the context for why you just said I love big tits.
Well, I mean, they're
Join the
fine.
live stream, folks.
Adam Fink, I prefer the sequel to Signs. Hey, why'd you move it? Oh, somebody just said that. That's Brian was pulling up. Somebody else just said it sounded like I just said that I love big
Oh.
tits, unprompted. Look, it's never a bad time to let everybody know. I found this I used to make it very clear to everyone that I liked Dr. Pepper, and it just would be at every party I was ever at. You just got to make your preferences known. So now I'm hoping that every live stream has some big
I
tits.
love
All right.
Euros. Just know this.
Adam Fink says that he prefers the sequel to Signs, where Gibson has to build a baseball field in his cornfield that he can play one more game of catch with his wife. Yeah, for the love of whatever his wife's name. Lots all titles. So you come to a planet full of water when water is poisoning you. Here's your sign. Yep, it's fair. And somebody else had mentioned somewhere, and maybe this is somewhere else in here, but there's a lot of water in the air. What do you do when it's humid? It's not a great place to be with water, but maybe it just
cornfields are notoriously well irrigated. I feel like you're gonna come across some water.
Yeah, aqueducts. This is the first scary movie I watched, and it legit scarred me for life. I'm still afraid of the dark. It's so embarrassing that this is the movie that messed me up. I feel like though, the difference between this and The Ring is that you know what you're getting the whole time. Like, it's scary and it's weird and shit's happening, and this is so much more subtle with everything. It's just like dread and sadness. It just feels like it gets you a little bit deeper than a Serbian film might, for example.
Yeah, right. They also I don't know, they made a phone ringing a jump scare. They use a lot of tools that are designed to put you on edge the whole time.
Right. David Williamson asks, are the aliens and Signs related to Bruce Willis and Unbreakable officially? The water connection seems too deliberate. So Bruce Willis's whole problem in Unbreakable is that he's invincible, but he can barely swim and will drown. I mean, no, because he doesn't melt when he encounters water. He's a bad swimmer. By that metric, I would also probably be related to aliens. I'm not.
Titanic also is in the same universe.
As this movie?
As this movie, yeah. Water kills things in that universe.
We have an official ruling. I died for your sins is constrained to your species unless specified otherwise. Sure. I don't know. Not expecting Christian philosophical debate when you click this link. Neither was I.
But I was prepared just in case.
It's definitely trying to say something about religion. It's just really muddy. It's almost like it's trying to say something about just fate and miracles and connections to things more than it is faith. But faith is a clearer way of saying that than just what other job would he have? He's like, I'm a faith man, or I'm a connections guy. He could have been a mathematician or something, like in Contact, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But anyway, How did they handle high humidity? Okay, so somebody else did say that. Sorry. Anybody else find it weird that at the end of the movie they're all sitting down to eat separate meals that Joaquin Phoenix had? How do you know he had to cook them all? Just because he said he was making the sandwiches?
That was very funny that they were like, yeah, what do you want to do? I don't know. Let's like spend more time cooking than I've spent in the last 2 months.
It was a final meal. It was their last meal. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson's like, we're all gonna die. We're not gonna eat sandwiches. I'm gonna eat a big old, cheeseburger with extra bacon.
Extra bacon.
Pro tip: praise the behavior you want to see more of instead of bribing. Reward with positive attention. Sorry, this is my field, so I have to comment when parents use the word bribe. I know I'm not actually bribing. I'm very positive. My children love me. Okay. Actually, the thing that we do right now is I'll say to Sweet, I'll say, hey, guess what? She'll say what? And I'll say, I love you. And she goes, you always say that. I'm like, right. Get in your head. All right. It's hard.
Anytime I'm not saying it, maybe I don't feel it. Think about that, kid.
It's hard to stab a spoon. Is this a reference to something that we talked about that I'm forgetting?
Spoon. I'd agree with the statement, but I don't know what it's in reference to.
That's how I see it. It's about the character's faith, not that everyone should believe. Yeah, because I don't think there's anything to suggest the kids or Joaquin Phoenix are like born-again Christians now. It's just Mel Gibson that's becoming a different type of person who wants to believe in something that matters. Movie has demons, but humanity is all godless and doesn't believe. So we just assume they're aliens, and that's what... I mean, they're flying in ships, though. They have force fields. What are you talking about? I don't like it.
What if demons come from the sky, not from the ground?
Demons from the sky. Holy shit. I don't like that theory, Joe. I know you're not espousing that as your own.
I dig it.
If you hit her with a truck, the aliens will come. That's true. That's just science. All right. Got anything else? I don't think so. You ready to do titles?
Yeah, I'm ready for some titles.
Titles.
All
right. So here's what I got. Exactly what the nerds want, because that's what Joaquin Phoenix, he makes a whole diatribe on, like, this is just like 30-year-old dudes who like don't have wives or girlfriends.
Yeah. Once again, feeling pretty attacked here.
Yeah, it's like...
He also says hair plugs. If I could afford them, I'd get them.
I had feels wrong not to swing, because I thought that was interesting, both in a artistic sense, because clearly his career has gone further and further into like, we're doing this. And it feels like, literally, if there's a little metaphor for his career, it's that he's hit some epic home runs and he is struck the hell out.
Yeah, more than any two people in the history of minor league baseball.
Right. And also, that's our rec softball league officially started, and I have never not swung at a pitch. I'm not there to let the ball go. I'm not like, it's going 3 miles an hour. I'm not gonna, if it's really high and far, I'll step over the plate and swing at it. Like, I'm not a child, I'm here to hit the baseball. You're not gonna walk me in rec softball. So anyway, and then I put Miracle Man, but I don't actually remember why, other than maybe that's a superhero and that's what he talks about.
I feel like I thought of that too. I think maybe somebody said that. That's super weird. I might have written that down.
Anyway, what do you got?
Says like, you're not a miracle, or it's not a miracle, man.
I don't know if that's what I got it from, but maybe.
Okay.
Because you're like, it's like you're either a miracle man or you're a no faith boy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then I think what Joaquin Phoenix does say after his thing about the hot girl who puked, I think he says, I'm a miracle man all the way, or something like that.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's something like that. Okay. What do you got for me?
All right. I got Lionel Pritchard and the Wolfington Brothers Infinite Playlist.
Stupid. I'm not even writing that down.
Mostly Shits and Bastards. Okay.
And some douchebags, yeah.
And some douchebags. The 3 Culkin problem. I feel like Allie and I talked about the 3 body problem on this podcast recently.
Did. I wasn't paying attention.
We should make one episode where it's about books, and it's about those books. They're really heavy.
Okay.
Sucks to your ass, Mar. That's it. That's That's what we'll call it.
What is that? Which one is that? Is that Sandlot or is that
No, it's from a book.
Oh, Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Sucks to your ass, Mar.
All right, so here's what the people we got. We got Waterboy 2 Sky Boogaloo.
Sky Buglio.
There's a lot of things going on in there. Alt title, You Are Not My Father. He does say that. I mean, I don't know if that's a Star Warsy thing. H2O problems. Okay. Close Encounters of the Wet Kind. Ooh.
I mean, it would be the dry kind, right? Because these guys are dry. But I love it, but it's great.
But I got
wet. This movie really dried me out.
Mars Attacks Again. I don't know if they ever came the first time. Alien H2O. I think there's something about like Alien 3 was like in the cubed. Like the official title for Alien 3 was cubed.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lethal Weapon 5, Riggs Goes Home. Yeah, it's true. Passion of the Christ 2, Demons from the Sky. I Saw the Sign. Nice. Take Me to Church. Sure. Swinging in the Rain.
Nice. Very nice.
Lady in the Water. Children in the Corn. There you go. Rain, Rain, Go Away. Oh, Rain, Rain, Swing Away?
Oh.
I'm going to write it down. I'm not going to use it, but The Day the Earth Remained the Same. H2,
Whoa.
Gibson and Phoenix's Infinite fucking Playlist.
Oh, yeah. That's what's up. Thanks, Steve-O.
Dude. I don't think it's Dude Where. I think it's Dude Where's My Savior.
Nice.
Naked Vacation on Acid World.
We're like, nice. Dude, where's my spaceship? Because they go invisible, but then a bird dies on it.
Dude, where's my spaceship, dude? All right. Good stuff.
I would also like to add Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Wait, wasn't that Mel Gibson? No, that's
freaking Kevin
Connery.
Costner.
Yeah.
Kevin Connery. Sean's stupid younger brother. The Wife Aquatic. No, that's Lady in the Water. I mean, it's good. It's a good pun, but yeah, Rain, Rain, Swing Away. That is a fun one. All right. We're done, right? We're not talking about anything else.
Think so.
So here's what we're doing. We're live streaming every Thursday at 4. Next week, are you doing 21?
I think we're gonna, yeah.
We're gonna have a guest. I am not gonna be here because I don't care about this podcast anymore, as I've been.
Yeah, you'll notice.
And you'll notice that our the money coming in has really dried up this episode in comparison to the ones where they thought they could get something out of me. I'm not your monkey. You can't make me dance. But yeah, so we're doing that. And remember, there is an audio version if you want to catch up on, because we used to only do audio. So if you want to catch up on old podcasts or whatever, we're on Spotify and the other ones. So we're doing that too. And then where can we find you, Jesse?
Oh yeah, find me at Eisemann on Twitter, of course. It's EISEMANN.
And here's my daughter coming in right here. Come here. You want to get on the live stream? No.
What's your Twitter handle?
What's your Twitter handle, babe? Okay, give me literally 30 seconds. My Twitter handle is _J_breeding on the Twitters. And I also have a YouTube channel that I haven't uploaded much to yet, but I might someday.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my. Oh no, she's too fast.
Oh,
that's my
hi.
Daughter. And she's creeping like a Signs alien.
Does she understand being John Malkovich? Tell her that I have the souls of hundreds of people inside of me.
No, she doesn't.
Okay. Well, sit down and watch that with her.
And that's it. And we're done. So
great.
Goodbye, everyone. Love you all, even though you don't pay me like you used to.